They labeled me the biggest disappointment in our family for 15 long years. Then one day, they climbed aboard my private airplane and discovered I was worth billions. Hit that subscribe button for more incredible stories about people who were written off but came back stronger than ever. The fancy invitation to our yearly family gathering sat there untouched on my kitchen counter. The expensive marble surface reflected the morning sun streaming through my floor-to-ceiling windows. After a decade and a half of staying away and keeping my distance, everything was about to change. And honestly, I wasn't planning for it to happen this way. I picked up my phone and read the news headline that would flip my world upside down. Forbes magazine had just named me one of their top young entrepreneurs. My virtual art business was now valued at over $4 billion. The story would go live tomorrow, just 2 days before our family meetup. So much for staying invisible. My assistant's voice came through the speaker system. Your brother Marcus is calling again. Of course he was. He'd been trying to reach me ever since the media announcement went out earlier. I answered the phone with a heavy sigh. Hey Marcus, what's going on? What the hell is happening here? He shouted. I just got a call from a major news network. They wanted to know how it feels to have a billionaire sister. Want to fill me in on something? I looked out at the desert landscape from my luxury apartment in Arizona. I guess you'll learn everything with the rest of the family. Stop playing games. His voice got sharper. You let us think you were broke for years. Mom was worried sick about you, thinking you were sleeping on people's couches. Were they really worried? I almost started laughing. You mean all those lectures about how I was wasting my life? The constant jokes? The helpful advice to go work for Uncle Pete's insurance company? They were just trying to help you out. No, they were trying to change me into something I'm not. I paused, thinking about Marcus. He was always the golden boy. Got his business degree from Harvard, joined Dad's accounting company right after college, never questioned anything. How long has this been going on? He finally asked. I walked out to my balcony and watched one of my 3 electric cars pull into the driveway below. Remember when I moved into that tiny apartment near the college? Marcus went quiet for a moment. Yeah, when you started doing that computer art stuff. That was 15 years ago. He didn't say anything else, and he didn't need to. That's right, I said out loud, smiling to myself. Everyone thought I had lost my mind for throwing away my finance degree to mess around with digital graphics, as Dad used to put it. But what none of you knew was that I had already sold my first virtual reality art collection for $600,000. $600,000? Marcus sounded shocked. Back then? Yep. And 6 months later, I sold another batch for $200,000. By the time Dad was announcing at Christmas dinner that I was still trying to figure out my life, I had already made my first $1 million. I could picture Marcus now, squinting his eyes and trying to do the math in his head. But you still borrowed money from Mom and Dad for rent. You drove that beat-up old car until just last year. I actually laughed out loud. I never borrowed money, Marcus. I asked them to invest in my business. They said no loudly. And that old car? That was a choice, just like this penthouse and the private jet parked at the airport downtown. Private jet, he whispered, his voice cracking. How wealthy are you exactly? I could hear the disbelief breaking through his usually calm tone. I thought back to all those family dinners where I was the invisible one, the sweet but struggling sister. Our youngest sister Emma used to dramatically pay for everyone's meals, sighing about how hard things must be for me. Forbes will say $7.2 billion, I said casually. But that's being modest. The real number is closer to 10. The sound Marcus made was somewhere between a gasp and a small scream. I've got to jump into a board meeting, I added like it was no big deal. See you at the family gathering. Click. I turned toward the intercom. Sarah, is everything ready? Yes, Miss Johnson, she replied. The jet is fueled up. The luxury car service is scheduled to pick up each family member. The venue has been secured, private island confirmed, and all the legal agreements are signed. Perfect. I picked up the reunion invitation again. For 15 years, I'd let them put me in a box. The weird one, the dreamer, the financial disappointment. But this time they'd see who I really was. My phone buzzed. A text from Emma. OMG. Is this Forbes thing real? Please tell me it's a joke. What's going on? I smiled and didn't reply. Funny how the quiet ones always surprise everyone. Emma, who loved to brag about how she was killing it in corporate America while her artsy older sister was still finding herself. The intercom buzzed again. Miss Johnson, both your parents are on the line. I didn't hesitate. Tell them I'm in a meeting. I glanced at my expensive watch. And Sarah, call the helicopter service. I think I'll take the chopper to my board meeting today. As I gathered my things, tablet, sunglasses, notes for my next business presentation, my mind went back to the day everything changed. The day I decided to keep my success a secret. 15 years earlier, Dad had rolled his eyes across the dinner table. 3D design isn't real art, Sophie. And this crypto art thing, he added, narrowing his eyes. It's a scam. No one with any sense is going to pay for computer-generated nonsense. I was 22, fresh out of college, sitting at Sunday dinner in my parents' Phoenix home. I was trying to explain a vision they didn't want to understand. They hadn't paid for an expensive education, so I could play with pixels. Actually, Dad, I just sold my first collection for enough to. He cut me off. You either come work at the firm like we planned, or you're on your own. No support, no safety net, just a clean break. My mother gave me her trademark condescending smile, reaching across the table to pat my hand. Honey, we're just worried. You need structure. Something stable. A real career. I looked around the table. Dad's stern look, Mom's polite pity, Marcus's silence, and Emma's smirk. That was the moment. I didn't tell them about the $50,000 I'd already made, or the 3 major galleries trying to work with me, or the investment firms emailing me every day. You're right, I said, standing up. I'll figure it out on my own. 2 weeks later, I moved into a tiny studio apartment. They thought I was broke, too stubborn to ask for help. But I was quietly building a digital empire. Year 1 was brutal. 18-hour days coding, creating art, networking. Sleepless nights fueled by pure ambition. My first major collection, called Neon Dreams, sold out in 6 hours. Total earnings, $1.2 million. I put every cent back into the business. Hired engineers, built platforms, revolutionized what digital ownership meant. But every time I visited home, same old car, faded jeans, quiet smile. Let me help with rent, Mom would say. No thanks, I'd reply. I'm doing just fine. And I was more than fine. By the end of that first year, my net worth had crossed 10 million. By year 3, I'd quietly passed 100 million. But to my family, I was still just Sophie, the idealistic sister who wasted her potential. Now, 15 years later, as I stepped into my private helicopter on the roof of my building, I thought about how the little white lie had grown into a billion-dollar secret. And in 2 days, everything would change. My phone buzzed again. A text from Dad. We need to talk. I smirked and turned off the phone. He'd have to wait. After 15 years of condescending comments and fake concern, they were finally about to learn the truth. And I was going to make sure they never forgot it. The Forbes article went live at exactly 6 in the morning. I was already awake, black coffee in hand, laptop open in my sleek home office. A wall of monitors lit up with chaos in real time. Digital art revolutionary, how Sophie Martinez quietly built a $10 billion empire. Right under the headline was a photo I personally approved. Me standing in front of my best-selling VR gallery, wearing a custom designer outfit worth more than Emma's entire yearly salary. The article didn't just reveal my wealth. It mapped out the empire I'd built in silence. The technology platforms, the partnerships, the auctions, the investors. My phone exploded. Emma, wait, is this real? 10 billion. Marcus, I told you something was up yesterday. Mom, Sophie, sweetheart, please call me. Dad, this has to be a mistake. A misprint. I muted the group chat and checked my email. Dozens of interview requests, investment opportunities, speaking invitations. But one email caught my attention. It was from my dad's longtime business partner, Robert Chen. Sophie, I believe there may be strategic value in exploring partnerships between Martinez Interactive and Shin Capital. I understand your father may have had past concerns, but I assure you, we're open to evolving. I actually laughed out loud. 3 years ago, I pitched them a collaboration. Robert looked me dead in the eye and said, "We don't gamble on internet gimmicks." My intercom buzzed. "Miss Martinez, your mother is in the lobby." She's quite insistent. I pulled up the security camera feed. There she was, Patricia Martinez, looking perfect as always in her tailored designer suit, arguing with security like her life depended on it. "Let her up," I sighed. Time to face the first wave of the storm. When the elevator doors opened, she stepped into my penthouse overlooking the Arizona mountains. Sunlight poured through the glass walls, illuminating an original painting behind me worth more than my parents' entire house. "Sophie," my mother whispered, her voice shaking as she took in the space. "What is all this?" "This is my real home, Mom," I said calmly, handing her a steaming cup of coffee. "Not the modest little apartment I keep for family visits." She wandered toward the floor-to-ceiling windows, her heels echoing against the polished marble floors. "But how? When? How long have you been living like this?" 15 years, I replied, leaning against the kitchen island. "Since the night you and Dad said digital art was a phase. Something no one would ever take seriously." She turned slowly, her perfectly made-up face now clouded with confusion and something else I couldn't quite identify. "But we saw you struggling. The tiny apartment, that old car, asking for rent help." I gave a dry smile. "I never asked for rent help, Mom. I asked you both to invest in my company. There's a difference. And the apartment, the car? All part of the act. I played the role you believed. The broke dreamer, the lost one. That was the only version of me you ever wanted to see." Her lips parted in disbelief. "You lied to us, Sophie. For 15 years. "No," I said quietly. "I just didn't correct the story you all chose to believe. You were so sure I was failing. You never looked deeper." She sank slowly into one of my custom leather chairs, her perfect posture collapsing. For the first time in years, she looked her age. "Does anyone else know?" "Just Marcus," I said. "He found out when the press release went out. I think he tried to warn you." She nodded. "He called your father, said it must be a mistake. Some other Sophie Martinez." I walked to my desk and handed her a folder. "Here's the proposal I gave Dad 3 years ago. If he'd invested the $1 million I asked for, his share would be worth over $100 million today." Her hands trembled as she held the folder. "He said you were looking for charity," she whispered. "That your art had failed. And you believed him." She didn't answer. "Did any of you ever come to one of my exhibitions? Google my name? Nothing." I turned back to the window, watching the city buzz below. The family reunion is still happening, by the way. But I changed the location. I bought out the entire resort. Everyone will be picked up by luxury cars, flown on my jet, and we'll be celebrating on my private island. "Your island?" my mother echoed, her voice barely above a whisper. "In the Caribbean," I said casually. "I bought it last year after closing my first billion-dollar deal." I turned to face her fully. "And Mom, this time I won't be the quiet one sitting through dinner while everyone lists their promotions and new house purchases. I've got some things to say, too." She stood up slowly, smoothing her silk skirt with trembling hands. "Your father, when he sees all of this," her voice faltered, "he'll have no choice but to admit that his daughter, his artist daughter, built something bigger than anything in the Martinez legacy." I smiled gently. "And, Mom, that's just the beginning." I walked her to the elevator, pausing just before the doors opened. "Oh, and one more thing. Remember that luxury car you've always wanted? The one Dad says is too expensive." She looked at me, puzzled. "I bought 3 of them last month," I said with a shrug. "Just because I could." The doors slid closed on her stunned expression. As soon as she was gone, I hit the intercom. "Sarah, is everything in place for the reunion?" "Yes, Miss Martinez," she replied smoothly. "Island staff are fully briefed. Each guest will receive a personalized folder documenting every investment offer they declined over the years, along with current valuations. The video timeline of your achievements is ready for the welcome dinner." Excellent. I picked up my phone, opened the family group chat, and typed a single message, looking forward to seeing everyone at the reunion. Dress appropriately for a private island. Transportation will be provided. Then I refreshed the stock dashboard on my laptop. My company's value had surged since the Forbes article hit. Another billion added to my net worth before sunrise. I thought of my father, probably in his office right now, trying to process how the daughter he dismissed had quietly become one of the wealthiest women in America. I thought of Emma, still bragging about her six-figure salary and beach house, blissfully unaware I could buy her entire lifestyle with a week's interest. This reunion was going to be unforgettable. My phone buzzed again. A message from Dad. We need to talk before the reunion. Some things are better discussed privately. I typed back. Everything will be discussed at the reunion, Dad. Isn't that what reunions are for? Sharing our accomplishments. Then I called Sarah once more. Have the design team repaint the helicopter landing pad. Make sure my name is clearly visible from the air. It's already done, Miss Martinez. Anything else? I paused, thinking of 15 years of pity, mockery, and being branded the family disappointment. Yes. Have the Forbes article framed and hung in every room on the island. I want it to be the first thing they see, no matter where they turn. As I ended the call, I caught my reflection in the glass. Calm, confident, wealthy beyond imagination, and finally ready to show them all who I really was. The countdown was over. The morning of our family reunion arrived clear and bright. I stood on the private runway watching as 3 black luxury cars pulled up one after another. They had arrived. The doors opened. First came my father, still upright, still sharp-eyed, but his confidence seemed dimmed. My mother followed, more subdued than usual after our conversation. Marcus, Emma, and a wave of aunts, uncles, and cousins trailed behind, their faces full of disbelief and barely hidden judgment. And there, waiting for them in the center of it all, sat my jet. Sleek, white, gleaming. Martinez Interactive, written in brushed silver along the side. Welcome, everyone, I said, letting my voice carry. Hope the ride was comfortable. Sophie, my father said, stepping forward, trying to reclaim his usual authority. This is a bit much. The resort would have been just fine. I smiled. The resort was too public, Dad. This reunion needed to be more meaningful. On my island. You're what? Emma muttered, clutching her designer bag. Of course you have an island. As they boarded the jet, I watched their eyes shift, soaking in the gold-trimmed interior, the original artwork, the crystal glasses. Is that a real Picasso? Aunt Linda whispered. Yes, I replied. Picked it up last year. My father cleared his throat. Sophie, maybe we should talk. We will, I said. When we land. Until then, enjoy the champagne. It costs more than your company made last quarter. He flinched. Perfect. 2 hours later, we descended toward a glittering jewel in the ocean. My 300-acre private island, with a luxury resort nestled at its heart. Let the reunion begin. And there it was, visible from the sky, exactly as planned. My name, Sophie Martinez, spelled out in letters so large and bold they could practically be seen from space. What the? Emma gasped, misreading the name at first. Then her jaw dropped. As we landed, I heard her whisper. Of course she branded the helicopter pad. Surrounding it were massive digital screens, each cycling through my most successful art collections. The sale prices were prominently displayed, 2.3 million, 6.7 million, 11.5 million. Each one a statement in itself. Welcome to Martinez Island, I said, stepping onto the ground. My own little slice of paradise. Little? Marcus muttered, eyes wide. The resort complex before them was a seamless blend of futuristic architecture and untouched Caribbean beauty. Everyone's rooms are ready, I continued. There's some reading material waiting in each suite. I suggest you review it before dinner. The reading material was customized. For Dad, a printed timeline of every deal he declined, each missed opportunity annotated with present-day valuations. For Emma, A comparison of her entire annual salary versus what I earn in interest per day. For Marcus, an analysis showing how much his firm lost by turning down a collaboration with my platform. I gave them an hour to settle in, then summoned them to the main dining hall. A glass-walled space overlooking turquoise waves. The long table sparkled with crystal, silver, and place settings worth more than most cars. And on every wall, the Forbes article, framed, backlit, impossible to ignore. They entered slowly, all pretense of confidence fading. Even their designer outfits looked oddly out of place here. "Please have a seat," I said warmly. "We have quite a bit to talk about." "Sophie," Dad began, attempting diplomacy. "I think I speak for all of us when I say we're surprised." "Surprised?" I repeated with a soft laugh. "Not angry that I kept this from you? Not disappointed I didn't share the truth? Just surprised." "We didn't know," Mom murmured. "No, you didn't want to know," I corrected her. "Every time I tried to talk about my work, you changed the subject. Every time I offered you a seat at the table, you dismissed me." "But the apartment," Emma said, voice small. "The car. The times I picked up the check, because you thought I was broke. I finished for her. Did you enjoy that, Emma? Being the successful sister? The savior?" She looked down, cheeks flushed. At least she had the decency to look ashamed. "Let me show you something," I said calmly, pressing a button on the side of the dining table. Motorized panels opened overhead and high-resolution screens descended. A timeline appeared, juxtaposing milestones in my journey with the words they'd used to dismiss me. 2010. "This 3D art thing is a waste of your degree, Dad." Result: my first digital sculpture collection sells for $50,000. 2012. "Sophie, you need a stable career, Mom." Result: company valuation hits $15 million. 2015. "At least one of us is doing well, Emma." Result: I close a $120 million partnership with a major tech firm. 2018. "Crypto art sounds like a scam, Marcus." Result: my platform crosses 500,000 users and 600 million in sales. 2022. "We don't fund online gimmicks, Dad's firm." Result: company valuation surpasses $3 billion. Every single comment, every time you looked at me like I was chasing a fantasy, I said, my voice steady. I remembered all of it. And I used it. My father swallowed hard. "Why didn't you tell us?" "Because you never wanted to hear it," I said. "You needed to learn that success doesn't wear a suit. It doesn't follow your playbook. And sometimes the person you underestimate changes everything." I walked to the edge of the room, glass walls framing endless turquoise water. The hardest part wasn't keeping secrets. It was watching you all celebrate each other while I was building something you couldn't see. "Mediocrity," Marcus said through gritted teeth. "Yes," I said. "You played it safe. That was your ceiling. Mine was higher." I turned to Emma. "You flaunted your six-figure salary like it was gold. I made that during a coffee break." Dad stood. "Enough. We were wrong, okay?" "No," I said firmly. "I don't want an apology. I want you to understand." I pressed another button. The screens shifted, revealing the prototype of my latest creation. This launches next month. A redefinition of how art is created, owned, and valued. Estimated worth: $10 billion. I looked at them all. This time, you'll see it happen with your own eyes. No more doubting. The room fell into deep silence. The kind that only comes when illusions finally collapse. My family sat frozen, absorbing the reality they had ignored for so long. Finally, my mother spoke. "We're proud of you, Sophie. We should have been proud all along." "Thank you, Mom," I said gently. "But I didn't do this for your pride. I did it because it was my dream, my vision." I looked around at the luxury they now couldn't deny. And now it's my empire. "So what happens now?" Marcus asked quietly.
"Now,"
I echoed, pouring myself a glass of wine. "Now we have dinner as a family. But this time, we'll do it my way. No more pretending. No more hiding." I raised my glass to the truth. Finally, one by one, they lifted their glasses. The shock hadn't fully worn off, but something was shifting. The rest of the evening passed in a haze of world-class cuisine, aged wine, and hesitant but warming conversation. For the first time in 15 years, they weren't just seeing me. They were really seeing me. When they finally retired to their suites, I stayed behind, watching moonlight dance across the waves. Sarah appeared beside me, her voice soft. Was it worth it? I thought back to the timeline, their stunned expressions, the pride they never used to show. Yes, I said, but not for the reasons I thought. It wasn't about proving them wrong anymore. It was about finally being free, fully myself. I smiled. And tomorrow, we show them the future. Their world of mutual funds, corporate ladders, and conservative choices is fading. The world I've built, interactive, immersive, transformative, is just beginning. Later that night, I found a note slipped under my door. My father's handwriting. I was wrong. Not just about your business. About everything. You didn't just succeed. You changed the game. I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner. Dad. I placed it in a frame beside the receipt from my first digital sale. $50,000. A reminder of where it all began. The next morning, as my family gathered for breakfast, attitudes softened, curiosity blooming, I realized something profound. Success isn't just about proving others wrong. It's about proving yourself right. And sometimes, the sweetest victory isn't loud. It's in quietly knowing you built something extraordinary while the world was busy doubting you. My phone buzzed, breaking the moment. Martinez Interactive announces revolutionary new platform. The future had arrived. And this time, they'd be watching it unfold. No more hiding. No more pretending. Just success on my terms. If you've heard my story, I want to hear from you. Leave a comment below, and tell me what you would do if you were in my shoes. Would you keep going even when your family didn't believe in you? Would you stay silent or make the world listen when the time was right? Your support means more than you think. Share this video if you believe in second chances, in building something powerful even when no one is watching. And don't forget to subscribe because this isn't just my story. It's for anyone who's ever been doubted, dismissed, or underestimated. And if you're chasing a dream right now, keep going. People may laugh. They may doubt you. They may call you crazy. Let them. Let their doubts fuel your drive. Build quietly, grow steadily, and when the time comes, let the results speak for themselves. You don't owe anyone an explanation for your vision. But someday, you owe it to yourself to prove you were right all along. Because success isn't about shouting the loudest. It's about being undeniable. Now tell me below, what dream are you unwilling to let go of?